Hi, this is the last part of Anim8or Scenes, Part 3, and now we're going to add some lighting and get a little bit more of an idea how this virtual studio has all been set up. So the plain render looks great, but we can make it match the background a whole lot better if we just introduce lighting that is customized. So here's how that happens. I'm going to click on any one of these quadrants, and I'm going to go up to Build, and I'm going to add a light. And I'm going to give this light a name. I'm going to call it Sun, just for future use. And the most important thing at this point in time is choosing what color and brightness I want this to be. And it's going to be pretty bright because it's the sun. So I'll click beside the color, 3 little dots. Lets me beef up the color a little bit. You could give it a little bit of a yellow hue, but I'm not sure that's going to pick up when it's that intense. But I'll just say OK and go with that. And this is a simple light that gets built in. You'll notice everything changes a little bit. Now, the light is not really clear where it is, but in the virtual studio environment that we have here, if we click the F key, you can see that the light has been placed up at the top. Now to explain, there are 3 choices of lights here, and infinite is the default. Infinite describes how the sun behaves. If you're outside and walking around, it doesn't matter where you walk, that sun is going to be equally bright on you because it's so far away and so powerful. What does matter is what direction the sun is in the sky. And so if we took that infinite light, and if we hit the R key to rotate, and I'm going to use the right mouse button to rotate it, from the front view, I could have it go from side to side, and you can see the effect that that's going to have on it. Keep in mind, this is just a workspace. When we render, it's going to be even more accurate, so it may not give you exactly what you're expecting. The sun in this particular environment looks like it's actually kind of coming from the back. It looks like the face of the school is not completely sunlit. So the thing I think I want to do here is I'd want to have the sun coming a little bit from, see the right side, a little bit like this, maybe a little bit from the back, like that. Just subtle differences like that hopefully will make things line up the way we expect. I want to show you something else too, by the way, as we're looking at this particular picture. I'm going to blow it up. I'm going to hit the decimal key, period key down by the bottom right corner of the numeric keypad. If you ever get into this jam and you think you're going to change the angle and the view of stuff by going into arc rotate, you'll see the real virtual set that we've built here. Eh? There's the prop and there's the background and everything rotates. It's kind of nice to get that reference. So you can sort of take another look at the background and say, oh yeah, where are the lights coming from? Where's the shadow going to hit on that sign or on the curb? So that you can get things matched up. Now it's all messed up right now. When we actually render this thing, we sure don't want it to look like this. Here's the trick. Just tap the arrow left or arrow right key. Actually both. One back, one front, one forward. And that'll reset it. Where you arc rotate to does not really matter to the camera. We want to correct the camera's view by tapping the arrow key. And where you've set the camera is way more important than what you do with arc rotate at this point. So now we're ready to render this thing, take a quick look at it. I'm going to click that quadrant, do a quick render, and render again. And yep, 1280 by 720. I'll do it un-anti-aliased so it's nice and fast. And yeah, you can see that the lighting is slightly different. It looks like there's a strong light above it, a little bit behind it. And we can see with the shadows here that things are working out pretty well. If it's not quite right, like if this is a little too dark in shadow compared to the shadows that we see on the building back there, make a match. You can go back, select the light, double click it, and change things like its intensity. And here's how you do that. Down under Advanced, you can ask it to, oh, actually this doesn't do it. This is going to do a cast shadow. Let's do that. Casting shadows means it's actually going to cast a shadow from that onto the surface of the thing. And right now its intensity is a little deep. I'm going to take it to 60, maybe even just 50%. So it's a little bit more of a subtle shadow. I'm going to keep it at volume. Ray trace is way slower. I'm going to say OK. And that's half the job for casting shadows. The other half of the job is we have to teach the saucer that it can make and receive shadows. So after you've activated shadows with the advanced setting of the light, double click the saucer and turn on casts and receives for shadows there. And say OK. Now, you don't see much change in the camera's view right now, but if you click on the camera quadrant when you render the image and say OK, now you'll see the shadows start to appear on the saucer in key places. There's a good example of it right there. Now, depending on the model, you may or may not see them. It's subtle, but it's mathematically accurate. And hopefully it's doing exactly the job that you want it to do. It just does look like the shadows are a little bit more intense than I might want them to be. So I'm going to hit close for now. And there are other settings that we can do that will set up how intense those shadows are. Really, it has an awful lot to do with the materials that you chose, the diffuse and the ambient. Diffuse is how it reacts to light. Ambient is how bright things are without any light. And we could go back and tweak that. But I'm going to start digging into the manuals a little bit and see if I can soften those shadows. But that's pretty much the way you deal with lighting. Lighting can just be created like this. And it is possible, if you wanted, for instance, to give yourself a little dashboard light inside the saucer, you could build another light in there. If I built a light and I said I wanted this to be not a spotlight, a local light, something that's like a little light bulb that I want to put somewhere. In fact, I'll call it dash or dashboard. I'll say OK. It's created it. I'm going to move it and put it right on top of the spotlight. The spotlight, it does not matter where you put it inside of your environment, in your 3D environment. It only matters where it's rotated. The spotlight, sorry, the local light is the opposite. It doesn't matter if you rotate it or not. It doesn't really care. You know, you can rotate it, but it doesn't matter. What matters is where it's placed. And so I could take this thing and I could say, okay, I'm going to put it in 3D space. I want to put it right there in the saucer. I'm putting it right there inside the thing. Remember, you can do a Shift F and zoom in on these things. If the bulb is a little too big, you can shrink it, and it really doesn't have much effect either. So I'm kind of looking at it from the front and there. And I wonder what effects that's going to have. I'm trying to put it in the center. Oh, that's funny. Oh, I got to move it. Move. Sometimes going to wireframe might make things a little bit easier to see the thing. Oh yeah, so it looks like it's inside now, underneath the guy. So I'm going to open this up, and I have no idea what the effect is going to be, but let's give it a try and see if we can spot it. Render image. And I'm doing this without anti-aliasing. So it's illuminated the inside of the cabin just a little bit more, maybe. Looks like it's really illuminated the back of the cabin. Truthfully, I think I'd want to move it a little further forward to illuminate my alien character. But you get the idea. Everything's come together. Wow, it has really brightened up this thing, though. It's absolutely creating illumination from inside to the outside. It's making this thing look a little bit like a toy. So I might want to reconsider that. I'm going to close. If you want to go get that light and you're having a hard time seeing it, you know what? You can go down to the timeline at the very bottom here and click open the world and look for the objects that you've created. And if you've named them properly, there's a camera. There's E object. I think that's the saucer. You can double click it and rename it. Yeah, that's the flying saucer. The sun is up there somewhere. Ah, there's dashboard light there. I could double click it and I could change its effects. I wonder if I took that thing and went into its advanced properties and asked it to cast shadows, if it would do that. I'll say OK to that. And I'm going to try one more render just for the fun of it. Render image. Now it's still sort of projecting the light out onto the outside, so I might rethink that and say, you know what, I don't think I like that dash camera at all, or that dash light. I'm going to grab the dashboard light, double click it, and I wonder what the easiest way is. If you've selected it here, you can get rid of one of these elements by going up to Edit and Delete Element. And when I do this, I think I've just gotten rid of that dashboard light. I have. This looks a lot more like an outdoor picture now. Render image. This time I'll turn on anti-alias to see the full picture, and it'll draw a nice, complete picture. Notice the dashboard light is gone, but I don't have that illumination, that artificial illumination out here. So try playing with the lights, see what you get. Good luck.